It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's this week's pull.
What are we reading?
And we have a very special episode for you guys this week. Action Comics just hit issue 1000, and that is, a huge milestone in any comic book run. I'm here with Josh.
Woo!
And Dallas.
Oh, wow.
Wow. It's kind of my...
1,000, wow.
That was kind of my response. Wow. Okay. But anyways, guys, we decided for the most of this week's episode, we were just going to focus solely on Superman Action Comics issue 1000 because there are 10 parts by 10 different writers, 10 different artists. We thought we'd kind of go through each one and talk about what the highs and lows, which one's the best, which ones we didn't really care for too much. So right off the bat, the very first one that we're going to get into right in the very beginning of the book is Dan Jurgens, who I believe has actually been writing Action Comics since Rebirth started. It was titled From the City That Has Everything. And Josh, what did you think of this one?
I thought it was a decent story. I thought it's definitely a fun story, especially for celebrating Superman and hitting the 1,000 mark. It's fun. It kind of gives you the exact. If you've never read anything Superman, this tells you almost exactly what you should know about Superman, the way he thinks, the way he works, and it's a fun little story.
I liked it. So far, I'm 3/4 the way into the issue, so I haven't got to read all of it, but...
It is a long issue. It's a $7.99 issue, so it's not your typical length. And
it's a long one.
Yeah.
But this one, Dan Jurgens is currently writing Batman Beyond, which is my favorite Rebirth series going on right now. Love his writing in this. This is my favorite story so far that I've read. The writing was very great, and as Josh said, literally, this is the Superman in one comic. You literally get him worrying about things when people are trying to get him to celebrate him. And he's literally worrying about this invasion coming that he dealt with early in the issue. And it was a nice... One panel specifically made me laugh and, get excited, is when he's, worrying about it and he's going to save it. And Wonder Woman's like, no, we got you. He's like, the Justice League's here? And she's like, no, there's more. And it shows everybody that's there to support him and help him save this invasion, which they did without him, just so he could celebrate him. And still, while he's supposed to be celebrating him, he's worrying about everyone else. So I think perfect encapsulation of Superman in one issue.
Yeah.
Or one mini issue.
Yeah, in this little story, I think you can kind of title this the Superman Appreciation issue.
Yeah, that's
It's kind of, they're holding what almost feels like a Spider-Man 3, giving him the key to the city, little celebration.
Yeah, Flash Museum opening.
Yeah, and so Superman, we hear from a few people who talk at the event, and they're kind of from all walks of life. One is a firefighter who talks about Superman coming in at the right time. One's a woman who was just on a subway train that she gets saved. Another one I actually really liked was actually some guy who was a reformed criminal.
Right.
Talked about his dealings with Superman in the past and how it turned his life around. And the whole time John, his son, is kind of questioning and asking what's going on. And then, of course, you get the whole Justice League and all their superhero friends together to say, hey, we appreciate you, Superman. And I thought it was a nice issue. It's a nice little tribute to the character for being around since 1938. So
I love that that part though, because it also is not just good writing on showing Superman as Superman, but also showing him as a father, because he has this thing going on, the celebration thing, that he's more worried about what's going on out there. He feels like he needs to be out stopping this invasion and everything. And his son keeps asking questions. And he's actually taking the time, and he doesn't, it's not like he's rushing the answers or anything.
Right.
He's actually, being fatherly about it. It just shows how decent of a person Superman actually is.
He's given him a good teaching moment. This guy came from a criminal background, and he's like, why are they letting him talk? And he's like, just wait. Listen, and it's showing good character development on this character's part. He was a con, in and out of prison, and all of a sudden he changes his life because of Superman, and John sees that and appreciates that after the story's done.
yeah, it's not because it's not like Superman just took this guy and all right, cuff him, guys. It was just trying to every time hey man, you need to turn your life around. You can do this, and you've got another path waiting for you if you choose to take it. So
Right.
It's Superman, while he can stop the world from ending, he's also takes the time to meet with the people. So I like that.
And I think that's the biggest difference between Superman and most other characters.
Yeah.
Is that he does take the time. And I'm a Batman fan, but Batman just throws him in prison and moves on from it. Superman takes the time and he wants the people to change their lives, whereas Batman's given up on people.
Well, Batman's you gave up your freedom the minute you became a fucking criminal.
Right.
So
And Superman, he always has the best hope in humanity, and it really shows in that specific dialogue. So I thought that was a great great mini little arc in the whole thing.
Yeah. And speaking on Dan Jurgens, and you said, what, Batman Beyond is your favorite Rebirth title?
Right now.
Guys, if you look down below, you'll see some brand new avatars with Dallas as Batman Beyond. You'll see Joshy Boy as the Mad Titan Thanos.
I'm so glad you said Mad Titan. I just
And,
got a boner.
And you'll see me, the Emerald Knight Green Lantern.
Ooh, I like that.
You like that one?
I like how you're just Batman Beyond.
Well, he didn't
He's
use
Emerald
the
Knight,
Tomorrow,
I'm Mad Titan.
The Tomorrow Knight is his other name, and he didn't even use it.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah,
You're
that
the,
one-
You're the
yeah.
Batman of tomorrow.
I mean, that works. I'm okay with it.
But anyway, so the next one that we got is actually by Peter Tomasi, who's been writing Superman, this actual Superman series. And I really like that series only a lot because we see Superman more as a family man than we do in Action Comics. It's him being a dad and a husband, and I really enjoy that. But it's by Peter Tomasi with Patrick Gleason on the art. And this one's more just like a recounting of all the different events that have kind of gone on from Superman. We get to kind of go through the decades with Superman, and we get to see him drawn in different styles, wearing different outfits. We see key moments in his history, like him battling Mongol, and after the death of Superman and the resurrection. And we see when he was just, and he's talking about going to different universes and stuff. When he's like, I can't fly. I didn't have heat breath or heat vision and ice breath.
Yeah.
I was just,
I
you
love
know,
that part.
Cool.
I really dug that they were like going back to the Schuster and Siegel times of Superman and
And even Kingdom Come.
yeah.
They even brought that up. So,
Mark
I mean, it's
Waid's-
not just even the
and
past.
They,
I
and
mean, it's
they
even the
name
future.
dropped Kingdom Come.
Yeah,
I
they
thought,
do.
That was cool. And then, of course, there's one panel where there's like 3 different Supermen fighting, and you can tell one is very based on like the old Super Friends style.
Yeah.
And I just think it's kind of cool.
I like how they explain why this is all going on too.
Right.
They give a nice
Yeah,
background
with this
to it.
whole Vandal Savage thing.
Yeah, and I believe that there's one panel that's this one. I think it's supposed to be an homage to actually Earth One Superman by J. Michael Straczynski. But yeah, I thought it was a good little issue. And again, because the Superman series has been all about him being a dad and a husband, we find at the very end of this little mini issue is that he's just having a little dinner with his family and telling a story to his family.
Yeah, I
so
know.
I thought that was a quaint little thing.
Which is perfect. I mean, it
Yeah.
fits Tomasi's feel on Superman.
Oh yeah, we also get
anyways.
a cellophane Superman.
Yeah, I know. I love that. Yeah.
Trapped in the oh shit, not the negative. Is it the negative zone?
Phantom Zone.
Phantom
Phantom
Zone.
Zone.
Yeah, negative
Phantom
zone
Zone.
is it's Marvel.
Yeah.
Dallas, anything to say about that one?
Imagery was fantastic. Artwork was great. The plot, it fit for what it was trying to do. It wasn't like an award-winning plot, but it fit exactly what it was supposed to do.
Right. The first one was Superman Appreciation. This is kind of recounting Superman's voyages over the years.
Yeah, they could have took a cheap shot with just showing the little glimpses and having them tell a story.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's really more than just that. There's deals with the Vandal Savage. It's actually a pretty creative way of doing
It
that.
is. And I know we've talked about, can we just appreciate the difference in art styles, line weights, and everything when like you go through?
Doesn't
and they're
Miller
clearly-
do a panel for that too?
No, he does not do a panel. He just does that ugly ass pinup. Oh no! Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of John Romita Jr. Sorry.
No.
We don't talk about them.
Yeah, we're not talking about that pinup because I like John Romita Jr. and that's
That just
that's
hurts you?
awful. Yeah, it's an
It's
awful.
Fucking ugly.
But I mean everything, like you said, different emblems, different suits, different colors, different accessories to his uniform. You can just see all the differences over the eras and the decades. It was excellent. Even in the shading, like you brought up the 3 different Supermen fighting. Vandal Savage took him into a universe where he has to fight himself twice. He's got 2 of him, and one, like you said, is the very Super Friends, very low detail, and then you see shading on this arm on a different Superman. It's just very, very good in attention to detail and artistic integrity and styles. It's very well done.
Yeah, I dug it. All right, and then the next one that we got is An Enemy Within, but the script was actually by Marv Wolfman.
Yeah,
Did you pay attention to that?
yeah, I paid attention to it.
Okay, so you don't seem too excited about this one. What'd you think?
Well, okay, so in this storyline, in this little story, there's a principal, and he has a student at gunpoint, and it's obvious that he is being mind controlled, and there's police, and they're out there, and they're threatening to shoot him, and then he needs to put the gun down, and all this stuff like that. And then Superman is narrating this whole thing about how he
Can't be everywhere.
how he can't be everywhere
yeah.
at once, and how he has to choose which things are worse.
He has to prioritize what things to deal with.
And what it
yeah.
ends with is you find out that the thing that he prioritized and he went out for was actually a distraction for Brainiac to test out this mind control thing. Which is a good example. It's a great little thing with saying, like, you know what, Superman can make mistakes, which is great and everything. For me, this was probably my least favorite story.
Really?
It's one of them.
Okay.
It was fun. It was a good little read, but there's other ones that were better, and this one it didn't really hit home for me, and which is really bad because like Jake is like pointed out like, oh, it's Wolfman, and like I like Wolfman, and it's just sometimes he doesn't hit it for me, and this was one of those times.
He's kind of a writer from a different era too.
Exactly. It just didn't feel. It felt like it was. I definitely can feel like an 80s vibe from it when I read it. Like
I definitely didn't get the Superman can make mistakes. I got more he has faith in the people he surrounded himself with.
That's too.
So he has faith that she's going to do it in the best way possible that she can while saving other people. He has faith in those around him to step up, because I think it starts off talking about like other heroes, if I remember right.
I don't think so.
He starts off talking about where he's needed most. Mm-hmm. And then he basically hits, like, I'm in Japan dealing with this threat, like you said, was a diversion to test out the Brainiac. And he says, so fortunately for me, I've got a card up my sleeve. And he says, I truly believe the people of Earth are good and decent. In times of trouble, they will rise up and make things right. So he had faith that she would step up and not kill him, but she would apprehend him in a way that wouldn't threaten anyone else. I got more of his faith in humanity than a Superman story.
But when you break it down, that's
so
where
the way I was trying to look at all 10 different stories, right? Which 10 for there's a story for every 100 issues, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I was trying to look at like what's the overall theme, because each one of these is trying to paint a different aspect to Superman's character. The first one was the way the people and his friends see him. How does he look from the outside in? The second one is just him recounting the years, his voyages and his battles and things like that, and being a family man. This one, I think, is more about how he sees the human race a little bit more. Why is he a Superman? Well, he has faith in the human race to do the right thing. If they didn't, they wouldn't be worth saving. So when she takes this guy out with a rubber bullet, and he goes, I knew it. I had faith that they weren't going to go to such extreme actions and just kill this dude. They would find another way, and that they're not completely helpless. Mm-hmm. So I like that this is the first one's more from like the ground looking up. Now we're kind of getting Superman's perspective from the sky looking downward on the people, which
is a nice little touch.
Yeah, I mean thematically,
definitely, because like Superman's not even in a panel until the very last page.
Right.
So it's really not even so much of a Superman story as much as it is a human story.
Yeah, but it's him narrating how he kind of feels about the human race, and I like that. I like that we're kind of capturing these different aspects of Superman and who he is, and what makes Superman such a great character that we as comic book fans love him, the people in the comics themselves love him as Superman, and why Superman loves being Superman. Take hint, Man of Steel. All right, so the next one is The Car, written by Jeff Johns and Richard Donner, actually, the director of the first Superman movie. And the art by Oliver Copiel. And, man, whoever colored this,
amazing.
Alejandro Sanchez, man, he really brought Copiel's art to life, man. His pencils are great.
So much detail. And shading, facial structure, and lines, so much.
It's great. And the suit looks traditional, but
this is like great. Jerry Siegel.
But it looks good. It works still. I like it better than most of the other ways that they draw them throughout the book.
Yeah, Dallas, what did you think of this story?
Even this story, it was a callback kind of to the ceremony when the dude's telling his story from the first miniseries, and he's showing that his love and faith in the human people to change and adapt to better themselves. And he wants to save all of humanity. He doesn't want to just throw anyone away. Like this guy, he stole a car, and he caught him, and he threw him up on a telephone pole, and he was going to come back for him. The guy takes his car to the mechanic, and the mechanic's like, hey, it's going to cost more to fix it than just buy something else. Superman pops up when the dude walks out, and he's like, I went back to look for you, you were gone. And then they have a short exchange. I think it's like a page or two. But it really shows he's really just trying to get the guy to change. He knows his backstory somehow. He's just like, I know who you are. You had a rough childhood. You grew up on this orphanage. He's a stalker. That's the theme of this story. Superman is a stalker.
Yeah. That's what the S stands for. Not for fucking hope. It's for stalker.
Yeah.
But he has faith. He knows who he is, and he's reasoning with him on a level. And he's like, I knew this is where you grew up. And the guy's relating to him like, yeah, on this street. He knows where it was, so it's that familiarity. Like, they both know the area, so he can relate to him. Like, hey, you're from this area, so am I. We at least have some things in common. And he's like, you grew up with a rough life, and you wanted someone to do something good for you. Why don't you do something good for someone else and change your life?
Yeah, kind of stop this whole chain of just that if you were brought up poorly, then you just keep, bringing bad into the world
Right.
and transferring it almost like a fucking STD.
Right. Bring out positivity and change others around you.
Right.
One of my favorite little dialogues in there is because it starts with a guy getting his car totaled by Superman because he accidentally hit Superman. Or I don't know if he accidentally or what.
I think he stole it and Superman landed.
Yeah, but I love it because like he's talking to the garage, the auto mechanic, and he was saying, he's like talking about how much it's going to cost to fix it, and he goes, "I just junk it."
Yep.
And then Superman talks about references the guy's life as pretty much as that car.
Yeah.
Which makes it to that whole like
you can fix
Superman
it or you can junk
everything.
it.
You can fix it or you can junk it.
And the very last panel itself is he was talking about how like when he grew up in this orphanage he always wanted to swim and they couldn't, and the very last panel is him opening a fire hydrant and these kids in the street so that they can play in the water on a hot day.
Yeah.
So
Or you
it's
can
him
look at it as this guy's just being a real dick and spraying these
Vandalizing,
kids.
yeah.
Yeah, vandalizing, which is still breaking the
So
fucking law.
is he changing his life or is he just reverting back to being an asshole?
You know what? I think that Superman still should stop him. Like, apparently he didn't. Like, it's like Superman's like, whoa. I understand where you're going, but you're going about it the wrong way.
Yeah, but it's kind of like you said. It's a glimpse, a little more interpersonal glimpse into what we saw in the first story, where he's talking to the guy, where the guy's talking about how he was a criminal and he turned his life around because Superman invested in him and he believed in him and he inspired him, and that's what Superman does. He's supposed to be inspiration and hope, and so this guy, Superman, takes that and he decides to try and inspire this guy to do the right thing. And I think that speaks to all of us on a human level. I think we all want to try and do the right thing here and there.
That was a fun story.
It was. I think that's the
good.
best Superman stories is when they show him trying to bring out the best in people as opposed to just beating the shit out of someone.
Isn't that weird? Yeah. Like, I almost agree, too. Like, I think that the best Superman... I'm not a huge Superman fan.
I'm not either.
But I will say that my favorite Superman storylines are ones where he is not being a superhero.
Mine are just when he's not
like human.
trading punches with something that seems to be unbeatable and making shit explode.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Bay film.
Yeah. Or like the end of Man of Steel.
That too.
All right, so if anyone's listening, I don't hate Man of Steel. I think it's the most tolerable DCEU film out there. So, All right, so the next one is by Scott Snyder, art by Ralph Albuquerque, and it's called The Fifth Season.
It's called Trash.
Yeah,
it's called Richmond, Indiana. Let's be honest, guys. Fifth season.
It's called the state of the DCEU.
God!
He's on a roll. Just let him go.
I'm just gonna keep bashing the DCEU. It's just too easy.
While we're reviewing issue 1000 of Action Comics.
It's like beating up a vegetable.
You guys made congratulations! Action Comics made 1,000 issues.
DCEU sucks.
Fucking sucks. Man of Steel's the most tolerable film.
Okay, so here's my thing. Scott Snyder has yet to do anything good for me after his end on New 52 Batman. Mm-hmm. And here comes another one, and I just go, this one just left me wanting more. What was the fucking point of this story?
None.
Honestly, there's nothing here other than to show, Superman and Lex Luthor actually grew up together, and apparently Lex Luthor doesn't know that. He doesn't realize that. I can't really. That's not clear.
The only thing I could force myself to try and wrap a logical thought around was at the end of the issue, when it says something like, or at the beginning when he says, you stole these two things and I know you did it to kill me, and he's like, no, I stole it for this and this, and at the very end he admits that he stole it to kill him, but yet Superman standing next to him not dying. So I assumed it's Superman again trusting and hoping the best in people. I guess that's the most logical thing I can wrap around a plot point.
Snyder's had this pseudo-intellectual streak for too goddamn long. I don't know why people keep letting him write this shit, because it's just not clear. I really thought when they showed that Lex was like, I just got lucky. You're supposed to superheat the liquid nitrogen or whatever, but it didn't explode on me. And you find out that it's because Clark, as a little kid, used his heat vision to do it. I thought that would be some kind of revelation because they're watching time go by, but it doesn't change anything. The characters don't change.
It was a pointless story I feel like they wrote just to have certain names attached to it. The artwork, I mean, some of it's good, but Lex really bothers me the way he's drawn.
Yeah.
It looks
a
like
Jesse Eisenberg. Listen to our last podcast. You know how we feel about Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor.
The first page, he looks possessed. He has all white eyes, and it looks weird up until one panel. He has pupils again, and just everything about the way he's drawn, it looks like he has a mustache in one panel, Because
Which is weird. I usually like Raphael Albuquerque as an artist, but this isn't doing it for me.
I don't think Superman was poorly drawn. I think Lex Luthor was poorly drawn.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing. If you read like the last page, it says, comes back and eventually the sun will eat our Mercury and then Venus and then Earth and then our time ends. I think it's just like supposed to be saying in a really bullshit roundabout pseudo-intellectually way is that Superman and Lex Luthor need to stop fighting because eventually everything's going to die anyway. Like it's very existential, I guess, but it's just like other than that I can't really glean a point to this fucking thing.
Yeah.
You know,
it was a tough one to get through, and it's like they're all mini issues, so they're not long.
This one's one of the shorter ones, which is great, but it's just I don't know what the fuck is up with Snyder lately.
I don't know. I haven't read Metal. I don't know.
He put all his genius into Batman.
Dude's tapped out, man.
He needs to just take a break.
Yeah, it's basically like natural causes that things are gonna die. We're gonna die. Maybe we shouldn't be enemies. I mean, that's about the only thing I can really glean from this thing. So I don't know. I want to move on because the next one fucking sucks too.
Yeah.
It's by our favorite fucking writer of all time, Tom King.
Hey, he's the #1 writer of 2017 for comic books.
Yeah. Well, glad 2017's fucking over then.
Right.
But anyway, the artist is Clay Mann. Dude, spectacular. Love Clay
the
Mann's
art was
artwork.
great.
Yeah.
The art in here is great.
But the whole thing, the thing that bothered me the most about this is it makes no goddamn sense. He apparently he's at an Earth that was destroyed 4 billion years ago, and he visits it because it reminds him of Ma and Pa Kent and where he grew up. But he talks about, and he's like talking to his Ma and Pa, even though they've been dead for 4 billion and 50 years. He's talking to them, saying goodbye, how life is going. In 4 billion years since Earth has been destroyed, Lois is fine, John is doing well. How did they live 4 billion years? I don't know. Do they go to some galaxy where time doesn't pass the same way? I don't understand.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
There's a grape juice, man. They say it in that one dialogue bubble. The grape juice. They hate the taste of grape now.
Yeah, it's an eternity formula, but I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this.
It's a fucking cop-out, dude. That's what it is.
It is, and I honestly, I think if they would have had them dead and shown him more of part of what makes him him is the humanity that he deals with and he saves and the passion he has for it.
You want to know how you make that story better?
You don't do it?
You don't have him talking to Ma and Pa Kent. You have him talking to
Lois and John.
And it'd be 4 billion years down the road. Because that is the perfect thing about Superman. It's like one thing that people don't think about is, in the end, Superman will be standing.
Well, yeah, as long as he's near a yellow sun, I don't think this guy's going to age and die due to natural causes.
Yeah.
I mean, his cells keep intaking that radiation.
He's going to be walking the fucking Earth, and everybody he loves or cared about is going to fucking die.
Yeah, this, I don't fucking know. I didn't like it at all. It was stupid. It felt like a waste of time. But I think, again, it was supposed to portray, Superman's going to watch all his loved ones eventually die. But it kind of stomps on that point, the fact that Lois and John are still alive, because he's going against, nature, natural causes. I mean, their nature, their destiny is probably to grow old and die, and Superman outlived them. That would have been a much more interesting story for me to read. But no. So, I don't know. And he has a grave for them, so awesome.
That was so random. Everything around him is burned and destroyed, yet there's a perfectly placed gravestone.
Well, he makes it.
I think that's what he's doing with
He's making the grave.
Is he doing that, or is he making this little crystal version of him and his family?
Well, he's making the crystal thing, but I figured that he was making also the.
I was under the impression he was making that, so
I was under the impression that he was making both of them. But now I'm thinking about it because I read this earlier today. Now I'm thinking about it. I don't think that he actually that little plaque was there. He made just the crystal part.
But here's the thing: it stomps on its fucking point by making sure John and Lois are still alive. When one of the last things he says is, "We're all stardust fallen."
Well, it looks like, and then he vanishes too.
And so we look to the sky. Okay. And it's a picture of him. So what is he saying about himself? It seems conceited and fucking vain. I don't know. Tom King can just go to hell. All right, so the next one The next one was it's called 5 Minutes. It's by Louise Simonson. And I thought this one was kind of fun.
This one was fun.
It looks like Dallas is still trying to read it as we do the podcast.
I am. This is where I stopped reading, so my comments are either going to be spaced out or fresh.
That's fine.
Yeah, you're not really
you
talking.
can talk about it here for a second because we've already read it.
This one just basically shows what Superman can get done in 5 minutes, you know?
It's just a basic... but you know what I love about it? Is the whole time that this is going on, he is narrating about not being a superhero, about being a reporter,
yeah.
which is fun, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he even says right there, superheroing and reporting, they're not so different if you do them right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's great.
I thought it was kind of cool, again, what he can do in 5 minutes and how talented he is, how he can multitask, proving why he's Superman.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much like if you didn't have the narrative part on it, it just feels like almost like a basic quick run action comic from earlier in the early years.
I liked seeing Bibbo.
I did too.
That
was
Superman.
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 By the way, I just finished it.
Oh, okay,
I
cool.
figured I could
now we're about
see.
to start talking about the next one.
know.
Yeah.
I know. Now I got to get through that one.
All right, so the next one is Action Land by Paul Dini. Pencils are by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. He's got a lot of names.
Yeah.
But anyway, this one I thought was interesting. So when I saw this was by Paul Dini, I was kind of expecting something more along the lines of his A Dark Knight Tale.
Yeah, the graphic novel.
Yeah,
which is more about it's more personal.
It was very personal. This one I think if you read it and you look at it, it's more the idea of Superman, but from the perspective of one of his enemies.
Yeah,
Mr. Mxyzptlk.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, though, is when you first start reading it, you don't realize that.
And I thought it was a really cool idea too. This whole after Superman's long dead, and they made a Superman land.
Yeah, I love that. And then it runs in this. It's a ride where it's in the rocket ship that he arrived to Earth in, and they go through, and they're like you're witnessing different moments of his life, different places, the Fortress of Solitude and stuff, and his rogues gallery, holographic rogues gallery. And when you're reading this, one thing I really liked, for the most part, for some reason, it felt like Batman Adventures, Paul Dini Batman Adventures.
It did. It reminded me of like the animated Batman when like Joker would do these crazy rides, to make it all kind of
or like when the Mad
themed.
Hatter was. I can't remember what episode it was, but there's one where the Mad Hatter was trying to reenact Alice in Wonderland. And, yeah. But yeah, it had that Batman Adventures feel to it, which I enjoyed that nostalgically because we grew up on Batman Adventures, unlike some people. Because we did.
We did.
Yeah.
We were alive for it.
He's not listening.
No, I heard you.
He's too busy reading what we're talking about.
But no, I gotta say, one of the things that for some reason, I don't know why, I kind of latched onto this. It was when the girl is like, all right, everyone buckle up, and we're leaving Krypton in this ship that young Superman was. I was like, this is kind of an interesting chance to give people who've been saved by Superman to understand exactly where he came from, what it would be like as a baby being jettisoned off your planet as it's exploding. Like I don't know if that was even really the intention, but it made me think like, wow, what if they did make a ride and this ride about Superman's life was kind of supposed to, be fun, but more or less make the people who are riding the ride understand how hectic his life was, where he came from, just the ride he had to endure from the exploding Krypton to Earth. I just thought that
you
was
don't
kind of
really
interesting.
think about how alienated
Superman
is. You just think about, oh man, it'd be great to have those powers.
Yeah. But then, anyways, you get back and you find out that Mr. Mxyzptlk is like he's making this whole mirage illusion thing and about how he wants to destroy Superman. But at the end, you realize Mr. Mxyzptlk, an enemy of Superman, doesn't actually want to destroy Superman. He has no reason to. He kind of likes Superman.
He has a hot girlfriend.
Sure,
That he
does.
does. I just finished it. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know who that character is?
No.
Oh, you don't know anything about Mr. Mxyzptlk?
Oh, no. I thought you were asking about his girlfriend.
Oh,
Yes,
no,
I know who he
okay,
is.
okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I'm surprised with a lot of people who don't know that character.
He's always reminded me of Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah, kind of.
I'm going to say his name backwards to
Yeah.
get him banished back to his dimension.
And
Can
it's
I just
impossible.
say real quick the art appreciation on the panels where it shows the superheroes that are his friends
right?
and the rogues? It's the
very
classic.
look.
Like
Yes.
I like that. I mean, Superman's drawn in this classic look.
It looks
that they
like
kept
the Bruce
everyone.
Timm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that everyone has a classic look, and it's not like Superman has his rebirth look and everybody else is classic, or vice versa.
Right.
That they're all classic. It's nice.
But anyway, I thought I liked this. It was kind of an issue that was supposed to be about Superman, but from the eyes of one of his enemies, and even his enemies don't really hate him all that
they
much.
appreciate him.
Yeah, so I dug that.
Yeah, it definitely took a curve that I did not expect that was going.
Yeah,
I was
same.
not expecting him
Yeah.
at all.
No. So we see how we tried to stall a little bit for you to
I
finish
appreciate
it before
that.
we
Yeah,
gave
I got
the
right
twist
there.
away.
Well, I heard his
Oh,
name, but I was
yes.
tuned out because I got just to the villains
is-
rogue gallery.
this is-
and then you were talking about it, and I was like, oh, they're probably just going to mention him. And I flip, and I'm like, oh, he's everywhere.
This is it right here.
Yeah.
This is it?
This is
one right here.
This is my favorite. Is this your
Mine.
favorite?
This is my favorite.
I don't think
out
it's
of all
any
of them.
secret either that we both really like this one, and we also are really big fans of Identity Crisis.
Oh, yeah.
'cause it's the same writer, so it's
he's so smart with
he
his
is.
writing.
He's also a novelist though, so he writes
yeah.
novels.
I mean,
But-
and it shows.
Yeah. So Brad Meltzer is the writer on this one, and then John Cassidy is actually the guy who did the
I didn't
pencils.
realize it was
I didn't
John
either until I
Cassidy.
just looked.
Oh.
And then Walter Simonson actually did Superman pinup.
Yeah, you know that a writing is so good when you're not even paying attention to the art. Because I
Right.
wasn't even really paying a whole lot of attention to the art. I
wasn't
was just
either.
like drawn to the
Oh.
writing.
Can I just appreciate this art right here without getting to the plot, because I'm sure we're about to dive into it. Him speeding to do something, and you just see the background is all blurred.
It's so funny because like him speeding to do something, and it's like, oh man. Yeah.
I'm not touching it yet, but that
All right.
art
You want to go?
appreciation is amazing.
I'll let you go ahead because I know that I'll get too excited and I.
Well,
I will
it's just
shit all over the
again.
story.
Okay, so what this whole book is kind of supposed to be about is more the limitations of Superman. You know, and that's something that we don't really think all that much about. He's the guy who can basically do anything, and then he's put in what seems like a very commonplace predicament that we would, you know, it's like, oh my God, there's a hostage. You know, there's a dude who's got a gun pressed to a woman's head, and you're like, okay, this seems like something that should be pretty run-of-the-mill, rudimentary work for Superman, but Superman knows it's happening, knows he can't get there in time. He's doing the math in his head. I can't get there in time, and so we realize the limitations of Superman, and he can't be in all places at once. But again, just the limitations in general. But then when you find out, what happens in the book, which is basically she's just like, she's smart. She takes care of herself. Mm-hmm. And she does something that seems completely counterintuitive, which is actually presses her head into the gun to buy herself just a little bit more time. She's not knowing that Superman's coming, but she presses her head into the barrel of the gun, which gives him just a split second more to get there. And then I actually like the very end. Do you want to talk about the end? Because I feel like that's probably your favorite part.
What, the end part where
Yeah,
no, my favorite part about this the whole book is just the science behind it. Mm-hmm. You know, he's breaking it down to how fast he gets, and as they're showing his limitations, they're also showing his strengths that a lot of people don't think about.
Yeah.
It's really great. But I do love the little part where, you know, the end is great. Where did you already finish
Yeah, I'm
it
done.
down?
So you guys can go ahead.
Where he is impressed by this woman.
Yep.
And he's telling her how impressed that he is of her. And then he's about to fly off, and he just seems, and then there's these little narrative boxes where it's him and Lois talking, and Lois can just see that there's something that he's happy about. And then they start breaking, and he's just something like this. Usually, like whenever you meet somebody, like that's like a really fantastic person. Yeah, you met a good one, and I can tell. And once again, it just shows, you know, even though he, like, I don't know, it just shows how much he cares about humanity. And
right.
it's just a great story.
Yeah,
I can't
but-
see. This is why I told you not to do it, because I shit on it, because I get so excited about it. And I was
But
like,
the very end is
"Oh!"
exactly what I love about this book. So if we're going kind of in keeping with the thematic of each story, this one is how the people of Earth inspire Superman.
Right.
Because we always think about how much we're inspired by Superman, but this book is about how the people of Earth inspire Superman.
I didn't even see that.
Oh yeah,
It's
me
written
either.
for Christopher Reeves.
Oh,
Huh.
that's really nice.
Oh, that is nice.
That last bubble, though, really gets that point across
Yeah.
that you're talking about. But I know your real secret. You are the one inspired by them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is great.
I try not to laugh while you guys were talking about it, because the panel right before that one, or the two before that, he said, "That was brave, Lila," and she says, "I just did what Batman would."
Yeah.
And he's like,
Yeah.
she's like, "That was a
That was a
joke."
joke, yeah.
And I try not to chuckle at that, but that was a solid issue.
It was.
And I
it's so
love this
good.
panel of him breaking through the rubble and stuff. It's just like a very classic Superman look.
They drew everything really smooth. There's not a lot of textures, and it works really well with the highlights. Mm-hmm. artwork in this book is really solid.
Yeah.
You're really paying attention, aren't
Except
you?
for that one pen.
There's
Pen up, yeah.
Yeah.
well, there's
one
and
pen
that
up.
Lex Luthor drawings. That
Yeah.
one bugs me. But other than that, the
No.
artwork's really
But
solid.
I will honestly say, this is my favorite story in the whole book.
Mine too. And I was just thinking about it. It was like, you know, I think Superman can have himself a tendency to look at the human race as helpless and needing him all the time. And then when he comes across situations like this, he realizes the human race isn't helpless. They can help themselves. And he kind of loses sight of that every so often because he feels like he's needed all the time. So I really dig this book. Brad Meltzer's an incredible writer.
Yeah,
I don't know. If I had to pick my favorite so far, I don't think I'm going with that one. It's up there, but I think it'd be between the car and From the City That Has Everything, the first story. I really liked those.
They're solid stories.
They are solid.
There's a lot of good ones in this.
Oh, man.
All right, and the last one is The Truth, our first taste of Brian Michael Bendis on a Superman book and illustrated by none other than Jim Lee himself. All right, I'll let you take this one away. What'd you think?
Okay, so you want me to tell you what I think or kind of give a rundown of the
Yeah, you can do
synopsis?
both.
Okay, so in this story, it starts off with Superman being thrown through a little diner, and he's unconscious. And two girls come across him, and they're just pretty much amazed. They're fan-shocked, you know? And they just can't stop talking about his trunks, that he's still wearing his trunks.
Oh my God, why is he wearing this underwear, basically, like every other
Maybe
panel?
it's a symbol for hope.
I loved that little jab at Man of
Yeah,
Steel
I
right
do.
there.
I do too. And you see this creature or this character, which I don't recall ever seeing.
No,
him
I think he's a
before.
brand new.
and he looks pretty gnarly.
He's gross looking.
Do you know anything, DC
I
fanboy?
do. This was when my research this morning, one of the articles I sent you. He's a new character. Apparently, they're going to add a backstory to, and it may be in this. I haven't got to it. He or his race or him specifically is
Right.
actually the one that destroyed Krypton.
Yes.
Okay, so you don't even need to read this now. You're good.
Yeah, yeah. 'cause
Well, I'm still gonna read it.
Well, the thing is like the story is okay. So I'll give a rundown of the story. But for me, me being the Brian Michael Bendis knob gobbler that I am, I think that Bendis is a great writer. This feels like it's just a taste.
Yeah.
There's really not a whole lot to grasp onto. I can't tell you if he's going to be good at writing Superman. I can't tell you if he's going to be bad.
Because he's more focused on like the reaction to Superman from the people than Superman himself. You know,
Which, you know, and I can't really tell you. Once again, it kind of goes back to the previous discussions that when it comes to Superman, I don't really like the big fight scenes, Superman scene stories. I like the human, more human and personable Superman stories, and this one is more about throwing fists and throwing punches. And also, I'll throw this out there too, with Brian Michael Bendis, I'm not a huge fan of the writing when it comes to the fight scenes. It's more about the interpersonal relationships of the characters. He's really good at capturing that, and he's really good at capturing just writing a good story in general. When it comes to the fight scene parts, they're usually pretty fast, vague, and that's what this is.
Yeah, and I will say it was kind of cool to see Superman actually use a new power in a way. The way he stops himself from like
Hitting the glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, we don't really ever see Superman do things like that. Just like he's being hurled and he has to use his power to somehow like stop
the
himself
new way of
midair.
using his power.
Yeah, so I was just like, that's kind of cool. I don't know how much Supergirl is going to actually be involved in Bendis' Superman, but she does make a couple appearances in this. She gets knocked around. But I am curious because, one, I do like the character design of this villain. Mm-hmm. He's a gnarly looking dude.
Oh, he
and
is.
then
love
if
that. It's
he
a
and his
cleansing.
people are responsible for the death of Krypton, this is going to add a nice little layer of backstory for Superman. It's going to be personal, so we like the interpersonal stuff. But it's also going to rewrite Superman's history entirely. But I hope that it finds a way to do it intelligently, where it still feels to be in keeping with what we know. But this also kind of feels like a little bit of Dragon Ball Z to me, in a way, because it's like when you first watch Dragon Ball Z, you hear that planet Vegeta just blew up, and you find out Frieza's the one who actually blew it up. So I'm wondering how much correlation there is here, because Goku is already kind of a allegory of Superman
Pretty
anyway.
much.
You know, with the whole going back and rewriting, Superman stuff, a lot of people was worried that Bendis was going to go in there because a lot of people would
Make him a Jew?
Yeah, make him a Jew. Because a lot of people, when they talk about Bendis, there's usually multiple different ways that they feel about him. Bendis' writing, and one of them is that he retcons stuff way too much. Mm-hmm. But in my personal opinion, I think that he is smart with his retcons.
Right.
They're intelligent. They make sense. You don't feel like it's being forced on you.
It's not like making Tony Stark adopted.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I like how you had to
Couldn't
throw
go
it
a
up.
podcast without talking about it.
I know. I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, and you didn't have to bring it up.
I know. I didn't.
Because that was not an intelligent way to do it.
No, exactly. It wasn't. And if you ask me, Bendis is the king of retcon, but I say that positively because
Like the Sentry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It felt smart. It felt genuine. And you don't really go, okay, this hurts me. It's really good. And I think that, I mean, this is just a taste, so I can't really tell you if I feel like it's going to be good or bad, but I can see the potential of being good.
I'm excited for it, but that was not my favorite installation in this book.
It was not my favorite.
I think I would, if they were to continue all of these into a separate one, which I know this one is continuing, I think I'd be more excited for this because this provides a challenge for Superman to characterly develop over. He knows this person destroyed his planet, his race. How will he handle it? Will he handle it like we expect him to? Or will he go off the edge and go Man of Steel and snap Zod's neck?
Probably not.
Probably not. But I think my favorite part of this issue is not actually when he reveals that he destroyed Krypton, but the fact that he was talking about erasing their bloodline like he once promised Jor-El. So I'm curious to see if we'll get any sort of flashback with him fighting Jor-El or some dialogue or some character development with this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do love the fact that the very last page in this book is an advertisement for Bendis, coming, and it says Bendis is coming. And it's like, motherfuckers, Bendis came.
Bendis is here, yeah.
He busted his nut at the very end of this book.
One of the things I'm most excited about is giving Superman, hopefully giving Superman a brand new villain that can be a mainstay in the mythos going forward. I think Superman needs some new villains, ones that are hard-hitting villains that like I said, that are here to stay. Doomsday was made up, came in, no one forgot about Doomsday. Right. Hopefully we've got ourselves another villain like that who's actually better than Doomsday because there's no characterization there. But I'm excited to see the possibility of a brand new Superman villain who maybe is so popular that we end up seeing him in a movie sometime that movie writers can go, look, there's some untapped great stuff in here for a Superman movie. So
see, the thing I'm really intrigued to see is Superman and Supergirl look like they're getting their ass whooped.
Yeah.
So how long before backup gets called in or they overcome it? So I'm almost wondering if that may be what the Justice League's big threat is when they relaunch in May.
Oh, I doubt it.
I'm
curious.
So. I think that's going to be on its own little tangent.
It might be.
But nothing ever seems to make sense in the DC comic books.
All right, so before we head out, Josh, would you recommend this book?
I would recommend it. I think one, as a collector, I think it's crucial for everyone to have it if you collect comic books. Even if you don't collect comic books but you enjoy comic books, this is a big milestone. 1,000 issues is a big deal. But other than that, the artwork, for the most part, the artwork is always fantastic. There's only a few little issues here and there. All the stories are good. There's only probably two.
Snyder and King's.
Yeah, those are the only two that are disappointing. But that's
short.
2 out of 10.
Yeah.
That's still 80%. So I'm happy with it.
Dallas, would you recommend this book?
Yes, as a collector, or if you're a Superman fan, or if you just wanted to get into comics, this is your perfect way to get into a Superman. You get everything about the character. I think it's a great way to get into fan collecting. Go for it.
Yeah, again, that's 3 out of 3 because I would recommend this, I think, as like the Cliff Notes for Superman. If you don't know who he is, not too familiar with him, this is a great jumping on point. You get an all-around 360 look at Superman from his point of view, his villain's point of view, the people's point of view. Again, as you guys said, I'll echo you. If you're a collector, this is a must-have book. I don't know if the next book that'll probably hit 1,000 is Detective Comics, but that's still a little ways off.
So a couple hundred, right?
No,
it's only 100.
No, it's about 30.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's about 30 or 40 issues away.
Man, I haven't been paying attention to the numbers on Detective Comics.
But
I'm more excited about this.
Yeah, still a little ways away. But Action Comics is, I think, the first 1,000 issue in a comic book, and I think you need to have this if you're a collector of comic books. This is just one of those must-haves. This is one of those things that in 20, 30 years, your kids, grandkids, whatever, maybe they can start paying their college tuition off with it. Never know. But any last words before we head out of here, guys?
Good.
Snoochie booches.
All right, guys. Well, we want to snoochie boochies. We want to give a congratulations to DC Comics and Action Comics for hitting 1,000 issues, obviously. And if you guys liked what we had to say, please share this around. Tell us what you guys thought of Action Comics issue 1,000. And make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out some of the other content we've got on the channel. And we will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.